Greetings. I'd like to cover something that can sometimes be a little bit controversial. So I hope you just consider this information, and I hope it doesn't offend anyone. And this is about the issue of kicking your hands or slapping your kicks in Tai Chi, Wushu, and Kung Fu. Now, many times it makes sense to actually lower your hands a little bit to slap or meet the kick. This is often because you're doing an application where you're slapping to the opponent's head and coming in then with a kick underneath, usually into the groin area or somewhere in here. In that case, the kick is usually very low, but you practice it high so that you have that range so that it's very easy to do it low. Also, people sometimes do line drills where they progressively will go down the room and kick their hands. Sometimes it's an inside rotation, sometimes it's an outside rotation, and sometimes it's straight up. That's fine. That actually will help build your capacity for speed and targeting. Now that's really what the hand is in most kicks, is it's targeting. And we all know that if you shoot a gun or you shoot an arrow, the target is not going to come to you. So the same thing with your kicks. You have to be careful that you don't over slap your hand down to your kicks, because that would be the equivalent of the target bowing down coming to you, and that's just not going to happen. So what's erroneous is if you're doing some kind of movement, let's say you're doing some kind of slapping kick, if you come in and you wind up doing something like this, first of all, this position is not good for you. You can see that for a health perspective, it's certainly not good for your vertebrae. It's certainly not good for your balance. Again, where's gravity working here? It's not working in your favor. It's working in your opponent's favor. Okay? And it's not going to work martially as well. It's putting you in a bad position. So for health, for martial arts, don't do it. And if you're doing wushu for aesthetics, well, that certainly looks quite horrible. So don't do that either. The key here is flexibility. If you want to get a higher range in your kick, you've got to stretch out. Usually it's your hamstrings. Now you have to also stretch out your adductors, your abductors, your quads, but this type of range comes from the flexibility in your hamstrings. And these muscles are on the back of your leg. So you need to do hamstring stretches. And you can find so many videos out there about how to do good hamstring stretches. One thing you don't want to do is what is called ballistic stretches. And that's when you bounce. When you bounce down, you're trying to stretch the back of your legs, and maybe all of a sudden you get a little bit more range from bouncing. But you know what? That's actually dangerous in the long run. That's dangerous to your tendons. It can rip your tendons and rip into the muscle fibers, and then you're going to have more setbacks in your flexibility in the long run. Slow and steady on the stretching. If you're doing ballistic jumping techniques and kicking techniques, that's fine for your training, but for your flexibility, not for your speed or for your muscle power, but for your flexibility, you need to go slow. You can also do your kicks very, very slow. Only lift them as high as you can. If you can only go this high, then just do that. Okay, don't cheat. Don't go, ugh. It's not good for you, and it won't help your technique any. For health or martial arts, it won't help you. So don't do that to yourself. All right? And also consider that sometimes when you kick, not always is it that your hand is helping you bring the opponent's body part to you, whether it be a head or something else, but sometimes it's just serving as a target. So if you're going to, let's say you want to stretch out, you know, it's all right if you have a little movement in your hand, just a little bit, but please don't cheat and do this. You have to also understand from a martial point of view that your legs are like weapons.
Notice that in most people, the leg is longer than the arm, so that's used as a farther range weapon, and the arm is used for a closer range weapon.
But if you can kick low only, let's say about that far, you don't do this to cheat. You may not be able to kick that high. That's okay. Don't move the target all the way down in compensation for it. That's never a good idea. Okay? If you can only kick that far, then kick that far. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't let it get to your ego to think that you have to fake it and lift your legs so high to the point that you have to crunch over because your hamstrings are not flexible. Don't worry about that. Okay? So practice wisely. Practice in a way that always will strengthen you, will always put you in a good position. Because in the end, you're left with yourself. And if you're all mangled when you're older because of all these martial arts things you've done, then what good is it? How's it going to serve you? Your martial arts training or your wushu or your tai chi training should always in some way benefit and serve you. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and money. Okay? So take care of yourselves, keep positive, keep kicking.